Good morning. I see everyone's just kind of getting connected here. Give it a few minutes. Good morning. Thank you all for joining us this morning. Happy Saturday. We got some sunshine. So thank you all for joining us this morning as we head into part 2 of our financial series. As we feature the Frugal Feminista, Kara Stevens. Just wanting to welcome you all here this morning. I know you're not used to seeing my face. I'm Janine Stevens Hale, the Chief Operating Officer for the Foundation for Black Women's Wellness. Excited to have you all here. I'm going to just give us a start by giving an awesome nod to Summit Credit Union, who is our official sponsor of this series. We have Amy Crow here from Summit. And Amy, if you'd like to just give a few words and introduce yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. Good morning, everyone. I am thrilled and excited that Summit is sponsoring this series with Kara. I've known her for several years and she's absolutely fantastic. I cannot wait for the advice that she gives you. Just wanted to give a shout out and say that Summit has podcasts on our website at summitcreditunion.com. We have on-demand webinars. We also have many articles and a lot of worksheets and calculators that you can use on the website to help you just do anything that you want to achieve your financial dreams. And one other thing, we have financial coaches at the credit union. It's complimentary to talk to them. So if you have any money questions, no matter how small, please, I will put my email in the chat and let me know what your questions are, and I can connect you with somebody who can help you answer those questions as well. So Kara, I'm super excited to hear what you have to say today. I got my notebook. I'm ready to learn. Ladies, thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Amy, for being here. And we're grateful for Summit for always supporting us. And I can actually speak to a personal support of Summit. Summit has been supporting me from a financial standpoint. So everything that Amy has mentioned, I have taken advantage of with Summit, and it has been amazing. So just a quick little bio on our amazing feature, Kara Stevens. Kara Stevens is the founder of the Frugal Feminista, a thriving personal finance and personal development company committed to helping people heal their relationship with money and themselves. She wants all people to be happy, wealthy, and brave so they can unapologetically live life on their own terms. Her relatable finance advice has been featured in Business Insider, Huffington Post, Yahoo Finance, Essence, World Day, Women's Day magazine, The Washington Post, and other national recognized media outlets. She's also the author of Heal Your Relationship with Money, The Finances Challenge, and Unmasking the Strong Black Woman. Kara, welcome, and thank you so much for being here.
I'm really excited to be here again. Yes. So thank you, Janine, for coming up to the front from the back. Thank you, Amy, for the relationship that we have and making sure that everyone knows the role that Summit Credit Union is playing in making sure that we can be happy, we can be wealthy, and we can be brave on this beautiful Saturday morning. 10 o'clock for me on Eastern Standard Time, 9 o'clock for you on the other side. All right. But we are here. You could have been someplace else, but you are here to get your money right. And if you can see my t-shirt, I'm talking about helping you grow your money and enjoy your money. Give me a yes in the comment if that's what your life wants to be in the next 6 months. If you want to grow your money and enjoy your money, I need to see yes, or something of the sorts. Make sure you also take down Amy's information, because after this, after we get all motivated and informed, we need implementation, support, and execution to make it to that finish line in the next 6 months. All right. So Mary's saying yes, Kalia's saying yes, everybody's saying yes. Well, I'm super happy because today we are going to be talking about how to demolish debt and join the Sexy Credit Club. It's an exclusive club, and I want us all to be there, VIP, right? For those that are able to do some of the work to get that done. So I know you guys can see my screen. Let me just move this over here. And so who I am, Janine, thank you for that wonderful introduction. But what I am also, I am a mom. I am the daughter of a single parent who had to make sacrifices to get me to the next level. I'm also the founder of the Frugal Feminista, and I consider myself the healer in chief because without a healthy relationship with money, demolishing debt will just be a one-step process, and you'll get back into debt if you haven't healed that relationship with debt and relationship with money. Same thing with joining the Sexy Credit Club. We have to really understand our emotions around all aspects and facets of our money in order for the things that we want to actually come to fruition and to stay. We just don't want to come for a little while and then go away. We want to be BFFs with our credit, and we don't want to be BFFs with our debt, depending actually on our understanding of it. All right. So I'm super excited this morning to be able to pour into you to make sure that your financial foundation is unbreakable. I want you to have an unbreakable, unshakable financial foundation. Now, the norms. For some of you, you were here from last week. Last month, and for some of you, you're just getting here. But we always establish norms for the time that we be here. So we create a safe space, even though it's for a short time, in order for us to get the most out of our time together. So we hold non-judgmental space for each other to process and grow some of the things that may come up as we do this work. And we do the work, especially when it's uncomfortable, because right in that area of discomfort is where your breakthrough is going to happen. All right. And I know that's happened to you in other aspects of your life. And in your finances, it's no different. Now, the tools that you need, I hope you have a beverage of choice, a warm beverage of choice. Hope it's soothing, a notebook, journal, pen, and a quiet, beautiful, peaceful space to talk about money. I say this intentionally because oftentimes when we think about money, we have anxiety in all parts of our body. And what I'm trying to do is to break that association and create a new relationship with the idea of money in a beautiful, peaceful space that's soothing, with pens that you love, with a journal that you love writing in. So it's a sensual experience that's a holistic one. Now, who you are, I know you are women that want more out of life and you deserve more out of life. And you know that your finances are a part of that formula. And you want to get as informed as possible as you begin to make changes, especially we're in February, the beginning of the year. And we want to make sure that all the promises you made to yourself on your vision board or in your prayer closet, you're actually making steps towards making them real. Now, I don't want you to have any FOMO. So I'm going to do a quick recap of what we did last week. So last week, our conversation was about understanding our money and saving with soul. So understanding our money story in particular. And this is this little picture of me, the girl with the beautiful coordinated outfit. That's me in my mama's lap. And what I talked about last month, and you should go back to the replay, is that we all have an inherited money story, one that we come into innocently, come into it without any idea of if it's true or not. And one of the roles as adults is to unpack that inherited money story to see if, in fact, there's a better, newer story that you want to tell yourself, especially if the story that you were stories around money, around wealth, around worth that don't serve your larger money goals in the way that you want to live your life. And one of the biggest journal prompts that I want to have you that we talked about last month was, if nothing about your relationship with money changed, where would you be in the next 5 years? Now, for some of you, that had me snatching your edges. Some of you were thinking, wow, if what I'm doing with my money right now is a precursor to what I'll be doing 5 years from now, something has to give, something has to change. And for some of you, like, you know what? I like where I'm going because what I'm doing with my money, the steps that I'm taking, whether they be baby steps or giant steps, they're getting me in the place that I want to be with my money. And so I snatched the edges, Miss Sarah. You know I did, because you were here last month, right? So think about it. If you weren't here last month, get that replay. but also journal around this prompt. If nothing ever happened with your relationship with money, where would you be in 5 years? We also talked about how we can understand net worth. Net worth is a simple formula of your assets, the things that you own, minus the things that you owe. And once you have that healthier relationship with money, you understand why you do what you do, and you also have goals around your money. Being able to understand your net worth and grow your net worth becomes a more aligned prospect. You're not fighting against what you want to do with your money, with how you feel about your money. And so we talked also about net income not being net worth. A lot of us think about, because it's valid, that income is the money that we make every month through wages or through some type of, maybe you have alimony or something like that, but it's not the same as wealth. Net worth comes, you can have high net worth and low income. That means when you have high net worth and low income, that could be because you're an amazing saver. So think about people, your grandma, or maybe someone that you knew from back in the day. They didn't make much, but they ended up with a lot because they had um, strong saving habits, and they stayed away from debt. On the other hand, you can have a high income and low net worth. Think about the professionals in your life, perhaps the lawyers, the doctors, the dentists, who may have large incomes. But if you look behind the scenes at their numbers, they're riddled in debt because of student loans. They may be living a particular lifestyle that they have to fund. And so what's on paper and the income looks like a high number, but also the net worth isn't as high as you think it would be. And then also understand that net worth or wealth has nothing to do with work. You can inherit wealth. And that's why when we talk about the Black white wealth gap and generational poverty or generational wealth, we talk about money that someone else grew and it was handed down to you. So when you think about it as a baseball diamond, some people, for no other reason other than they were born into wealth, they're on base 3. Whereas you, depending on your parents' net worth and what they left you for generational wealth, you're still in the dugout, right? So it has nothing to do with worth, has nothing to do with greatness or intelligence. They just happen to be in the windfall. And because of the systems in our country, that windfall often tends to be for the communities that have power in our country. And for those that don't, generational poverty is passed down, right? Now, for those of you that needed to hear that, just to make sure that whatever feelings you have around your net worth aren't internalized, let me know if that helped you right there. Because your net worth is not your worth, and your net worth is not a function of how hard you work. It is not a function of how hard you work. And I can give you, you can look at celebrities like Paris Hilton. She doesn't own any, she didn't do anything to her parents or the people before her had the hotels, right? Kim Kardashian's kids, they have inherited wealth. Did they do anything? No, right? They're just going to have more, but not because of anything especially special about them. It's just because they were born to certain parents that had wealth before them. So what we're trying to do is even the playing field through these classes, through conversations at the policy level, to make sure that those of us that haven't had the opportunity because of stolen wealth or because of opportunity have it. Just want to put that out there for you guys, to understand that you are not your net worth, and that there are a lot of other systems in place that allow for others to have that net worth and not you. But at the same time, what we're doing to grow and enjoy our money is going to put us in a position to break those curses. You may be the first wealth creator in your family, and that is amazing. And if you are, let me know in the comments and pat yourself on the back, because you are doing so much important work, and you're going to be healing generations after you. So I already talked about, I talked about these notes, but I want you to go back to the first session and make sure that you get all the notes, right? But we talked about increasing and declining net worth. Again, it depends on what's going on in your life. The COVID had a lot of us making a lot of money in the stock market. It also had a lot of us losing money and wages because of closing down of institutions, of restaurants, and things like that. So there's sometimes circumstances that create for declines in our net worth and circumstances that create for increases in our net worth. The most important thing is that you know the causes of it and that you can be able to buffer around them. So if you know that your declining net worth is attributed to spending and overspending or emotional spending, then you know that there's something you can do about that. If it also means that you're noticing that your stocks are increasing, you can reduce your debt so you can put that money toward putting into those investments, then you see that you also have something that you can do about that. So those were the big takeaways from our session last month. If that makes you feel, wow, I want to hear it all, please go back to that replay. Now, today, we're talking about values-based budgeting in the context of demolishing our debt. Now, who in here knows what they're about? And what I mean by that is, are you what you spend? Now, if I were to go into your bank account, your last 5 transactions, what would I see? What would I see? And I'm going to share, I'm going to be transparent. I'm going to let you guys know about me. You would see a lot of food transactions because I was on the run this month or this week. So does that necessarily mean that my values are around the fast food that I got? Yeah, due to a busy week, right? But I want us to go a little bit deeper. When we think about 20 years from now and we want to look back on our lives, what are the things that matter to us the most? Now, I'm going to share a story about what I know my values are and how sometimes my spending doesn't reflect that and what I decided to do about it. So in my 20s, I was all about I didn't have much money. I had just graduated from college and I didn't have much money, but I was very determined to travel the world. So any money that I could find, I got a job. I bought myself a ticket to the Dominican Republic. I found myself an internship, didn't pay much, and I figured it out. And I was all about the travel. You couldn't find me in the United States if you paid me. As often as I could, I was out the door. In cheap travel, hostel travel, whatever it was, I was there. So you would see back then that a lot of my spending and the money that I earned went toward purchasing tickets, right? In my 30s, I came back. I said, listen, I still have these student loans. I need a job. I need to get focused. Went back to school, became a classroom teacher, and all I did was work for a good 20, I mean, for a good, anytime there was an opportunity to work, I did. So you would see that my values from my 20s to my 30s shifted. 20s, travel, fun, exploration, cultural awareness, freedom, creativity. In my 30s, I was focused on financial independence. I was focused on education. I was focused on debt elimination. I want to get out of debt. And now I'm in my 40s. My 40s, I want to have some renewed family fun. I want to ensure that my health is a priority. So I spend my money on mostly I spend my money on health related work, self-care, and things like that, right? So we're not going to talk about the things that it costs to live from day to day. Like we have Miss Sarah talking about gas prescriptions and bill payments. Those aren't values. Those are things we have to pay. Those are bills. But I'm talking about the money that you want to actually create joy in your life. I want us to focus there. So, are your values around family? Are they around travel? Are they around adventure? Are they around personal development? Are they around faith and family and church? Is it around spirituality? Is it around beauty? I want you to think about when it comes to your values, what are your values? And you can give me your top 5 in the comment section. I'm going to put you in a breakout. So, Cordina said Rainy Moore. Cordina Rainy Moore says health, family activities like movies. Okay. Miss Sarah said travel is life. Okay, so what I want you to do is begin to think about what it is that's important to you. And it doesn't have to be Mother Teresa worthy either. If it means that you want to look good, fashion and looking cute is important to you, then that is important to you. That is important to you, right? And for me, at one time, wanting to have really beautiful skin, and that's still important to me. So you saw a lot of my money going to dermatologists, right? Making sure that I can have the skin that I desire. So it ranges from health and beauty to spirituality to helping the world, to travel, to love, relationships. It's all the things. You don't have to discount your values because you don't think that they are impressive enough. All right. So what we're going to do, I'm going to have you go into pairs right now. Yes, we're going to be going into pairs in a few minutes, but while we get ourselves ready to go into pairs, you're going to have 4 minutes in pairs. So one person will talk for 2 minutes, the other person will talk for the other, and just affirm and acknowledge the values. And then we'll come back and talk about what that means for your budgets.
So quick thing, Cara, this is Erin in the background, y'all. Hey, we are trying to get the breakout rooms to populate right now, but they're not. So if we can move, I can come back to this. I just need to populate it on another computer to get us going.
Oh, no worries,
Little
guys.
technical difficulties.
No problem. So what we can do is we'll move forward, but in the comment section, in the chat, let me know what your values are. Right? I heard, give me top five. Top five, and I'll share my top five in the meantime as well. So like I said, right now, I have a personal trainer. I'm gonna tell you, I have a accountability coach for health that I got a text on my water intake every day and how much movement I'm getting. So health is really important to me. I'm putting money from my budget into that. I would say self-care, but I would say on the pampering side where I get a body scrub, try and get it once a month. That's important. Wealth is important to me because I invest at least 20% of my take-home pay to investing and saving. So you won't catch me out there without my wealth goals. So wealth is extremely important to me. I would also say fun and adventure are my values right now. But I can be honest, I haven't really been exploring that as much. So I definitely have to make sure that I'm doing that. And I would say family is a value of mine, where I make sure that if I see something nice for my daughter and I think it will be of use, whether it be a book or, she likes string cheese, I get it for her. And so that's also evident in my transactions in my budget. So that's just me being a transparent facilitation, showing you what I've been thinking about when it comes to my values. And know that your values change as you get older. Like I was sharing in my story, like living in a different country right now isn't as important to me as making sure that my daughter and my family are healthy and safe. So we have our breakout rooms are ready. So I'm going to ask you guys to go out and share. And even in the 4 minutes that you're together, just share your why behind it. Sorry, share your why behind it. So are the breakout rooms ready? Have you guys gone to breakout rooms?
They are ready. You should see a join message on your screen, everybody. So just hit the join message on your screen and pop into your breakout room.
All right. Wonderful. So I'll see you in 4 minutes.
Looks like we may have a few people.
I know, I'm assigning them right now.
Okay.
Corinda says she doesn't see the breakout on my screen. I assigned you to a room, Corinda. Let's see. Tanisha doesn't see one either. Huh. It looks like we have 3 people that said they didn't see one assigned. They all say not join. Hold on.
You know, guys, if the breakouts are going to be too much, I can just have it be in the chat.
Yeah, let's just do the chat for now. I can see it on the other screen. It's just not populating. So a little technical difficulties this morning, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us while we figure it out.
So is everyone in the rooms or they're not? I
No,
just
it doesn't. There should all be there. Everybody should be in the whole room. I don't see anybody in the.
Oh, well, they have 1 minute left, so
Okay,
I'm
cool.
gonna give a 1 minute warning.
Yep.
Okay.
Then maybe we can figure out, Aaron, because there's another breakout, yes?
Yeah, I can just not do the breakouts if that works for today. And then we could figure out for next time. So we won't feel any anxiety around it. If that works for you guys.
Either way.
Okay. Erin, what do you think?
That's fine. There's something going on with, like, I literally have populated it about 5 times and it won't move people out. So it keeps having this little error thing pop up. So it might just be a Zoomy thing, but we'll call shenanigans this morning. Thanks everybody for hanging with us. I know because they're all still here in the main room with us. So yeah, we can hop back into everything.
Okay, guys. So thank you so much for your grace with our technical difficulties. But I'm hoping that if you had a chance to talk in the chat with someone in the breakout room, or if you just were able to get your thoughts and to give you opportunity to think about, well, what are my values? I just want to have 1 or 2 of you guys share out what your values are and where the origins of that value came from, or why is it so important to you? Do you have any volunteers? You could just raise your hand. Do anyone know the raise your hand function? Or sorry about that. Or you can just unmute yourself and hopefully we'll have a nice rhythm. Anybody care to share? Okay.
I can share. Oh,
Yay.
Stephanie also, Miss Stephanie put her hand up. But
Yes.
one of the things that I mentioned was stability. So I'll be turning 26 soon, and everybody knows that when you turn 26, you come off your parents' insurance. So kind of being proactive in that sense. Health, like eating the proper food, like wellness overall, proper supplements, making time to eat throughout the day, and of course, like getting up and moving. Um, Money to spend time with, money to travel, spend time with family and friends. That's a huge thing. um, Definitely would say education, making sure like I'm properly prepared when it comes to education and moving forward. And then occasional self-care. I thoroughly enjoy self-care. However, I recognize that it's not always the pampering side of self-care is not always a priority, I should say. So taking the time, I know growing up, I was actually watching a podcast where a girl talked about how her mom said you have to learn how to do your hair, do your own makeup better than anybody else. And that has worked in my favor because my mom had me doing that young. And so it's like to lean on myself to do my own hair, my own makeup, my own nails. It's like I actually do a pretty good job. So, yeah.
Well, good for you. So you can use that money for something else, right?
Right.
So, exactly. Because there's some people that said, listen, I like to outsource the self-care. And so for them, their budget's going to look a little bit different. And that's okay. And that's amazing. Thank you so much. Is that Miss Stephanie, another Stephanie? Oh, we got 2 Stephanies. Okay. Miss Bradley?
Hi. So my 5 would be having a better sense for saving for retirement, saving for health, and saving for family, as well as church. And I think that I'm a good saver, but I realized probably about 2 or 3 years ago that just doing straight saving is not going to build wealth. I mean, that is a step, but I really have to be more intentional about building wealth and using other types of vehicles in order to get to the wealth building that I want to have. I worked another career for 30 plus years, was able to save some money, but I have new financial goals. And so if I want to be at a certain level, then I really have to be intentional.
I love it. I'll open the space for one more if someone is dying to share, and they really want to share it in their space. Okay. I think I heard somebody. All right. So if not, you can always come back or share in the chat. But why I do this is because oftentimes we see our values in one part of our lives, and then we have a budget in another, and then the two don't mix. And sometimes we may find that our issue is we don't have enough money. But sometimes it's that we don't have enough money and we're not spending it in a way that really adds value to our life. So some of us make just enough money, but doesn't feel like it, because if we focus only on the things that really don't add value to our lives, whether it be the wealth or whether it be the self-care or it be the travel, then our life is hit and miss when it comes to that connection between using our money to fund the things that matter the most to us. And so I want to talk about, before you start budgeting and looking at your budget, I want you to create a values-based lens for creating a budget. Now, there's so much that we can talk about it when it comes to that, but I want to offer you a few baby steps in the process. So we already discussed your why. Why are you doing it? And some of us don't even realize what our values are. Sometimes it takes an activity like this to see that, wow, my last 5 transactions, I say I'm about saving, but then I took convenience. My budget, my last transaction showed convenience were a priority for me, right? So how can I begin to really align what my budget is doing with what I say I want my budget to do, and making sure that it happens most of the time? Because sometimes there's life and things happen. This week I had a kitchen fire. Wasn't expecting that, right? And so that's life. So step one is to know the why. Second step is to reevaluate the cost. You may see that in your budget, you're spending more than you thought in a category that can easily be trimmed or completely eliminated to be put towards the thing that matters the most. Now, how many of you subscribe to online sites for fashion or for electronics, when those are cool, but you really love travel? So how can you begin to either reduce or completely eliminate the temptation to shop online to really put toward that ticket to Dubai or that ticket to Antigua, where my family is from, for you to really say that it was well worth the spending of that money? And step three is to figure out the how. How are you going to actually find the money? Is it going to be, we'll be talking about a little bit later, is it going to be through saving, through earning, or by doing both? And what I want us to start to do right now is to actually start that journey. So, not sure if you got this. I sent this, or this was sent out a while ago for you for our workbook session together. But the first worksheet is the values-based budget. Now, you don't need to do this now. You don't need this to do it now. But what I want you to do is to think about, if you open up your accounts and see how much are you actually spending, and if there's any spending or saving that's going toward those 5 values that we talked about earlier today. So in this is a typical budget a detailed budget worksheet that I love, because it talks about your monthly income, your monthly expenses, and it goes to the utilities. No one has values around utilities, but these are places that we can begin to cut possibly or reduce so we can find money for the area that we really want to put our money towards, right? These are just cost of life and cost of living expenses. We have our transportation. You may see that you may want to have downgrade or get a different car because you realize that your car is not that important to you, but travel or freedom is, or family is, so you can spend it more, or fashion is, or living in a certain apartment or buying a home is. So finding in a budget the areas that you can really reduce and eliminate to put towards your larger values is what I want us to think about. So I want to give us, if you haven't gotten this worksheet, it'll be sent to you again at the end of this session. But in the meantime, just if this is not a possibility right now, I just want you to think about, are you spending right by your values? Right? Are you spending right by your values? And what does that mean? Do you actually see yourself in your current budget where you can actually identify that this is really important to this person because they're spending on this? And let me just say this, I'm not that philosophy of nothing's important, save for the sake of saving. No, what's the point? What I'm saying is each person has values that are important to them, and can we see them in how they spend? Because a lot of times that's where the joy comes in. That's where the sustainability towards savings comes in, because it is done intentionally. All right. So I want to give you guys about 2 minutes just to begin to think about that when it comes to your budget. Do you see yourself? Do you see your values in your budget? And if not, just brainstorming where some of the areas. Is it in your streaming or entertainment that you can reduce? Is it in your food that you can reduce? Is it in your household upkeep that you can reduce some of that spending so it can go directly toward those values? And like I said, I'll give you 2 minutes beginning now. Okay, you guys have about 30 more seconds. Okay. So I want to ask you guys, and anyone that's willing to share, what came out of this brief reflection? Have you noticed anything with respect to your values in your budget? Are there places that you think now that you can move or reduce to put towards those values? Are there trends that you observed in your spending? Do they go with and align with your values, or do they tend to not even incorporate your values? Just wanted to know what you're thinking and feeling as a result of this reflection piece. If you can raise your hand, or you can just unmute yourself. Is that Jasmine? You on mute. I think. No, I can't hear you. Try again. Can anybody else hear, or is it just me? Okay, Jasmine, we can't hear you. Okay, you could put it in the chat, and then you can try and figure it out, and you can always come back. Is there anyone else that wants to share what they've come up with? Okay, so you guys can continue to share in the chat as it comes up for you. And so part of this process of identifying your values inside your budget is an extremely important part of ensuring that how you move forward will be different. Now, I'm not sure because this was a short process, but you may have realized that you're bougie and your values are fancy. And what I mean by that is that you have a lot of things that you want to do that cost a lot of money, and it's really more than what your budget can handle. Now, I'm not going to say, Kara, or whoever it is, just go out there and spend and just live your best life. It's okay. That's not the kind of personal finance person I am. I'm gonna give you some support though, right? It's okay to be bougie and have fancy values, but this is what I'm gonna say. You need to create a sinking fund. And a sinking fund is where you put little by little each paycheck toward that fund. So if it's a travel fund, well, every pay period that comes, you say 10% of money, no matter where it comes from, goes into this sinking fund for travel. Second thing I would say is rank your values. Now, you don't have to have all your values be reflected in your budget for your budget to be an authentic one. What out of those five are the top two that really, really are important to you? And then focus on those for the next few months before moving on to the next. And shift it. When I say shift it is, you're going to have to be extremely aggressive about combing through that budget, a line by line item analysis, and thinking about in all areas, are there ways that I can reduce utilities? Is there a way that I can reduce phone and cable usage? Is there a way I can reduce streaming services, subscriptions, movies, concerts, hobbies? Is there a way that I can reduce groceries or eating out? Are there ways that I can reduce on personal care? Are there areas that I can reduce in terms of bundling my health insurance that will find me the money to put toward that value? Okay. So you won't be telling me, I won't be telling you to go into debt for your values. What I'll be saying is make it work for you by adjusting through the sinking fund, through identifying which values are the most important at this point in your life, sticking with them, and then shifting from expenses that don't add value and then don't change your standard of life and putting it towards those areas that matter the most to you. Okay. So when we think about next is I have a pop quiz when it comes to all these things that we talked about. When we think about an emergency, I want to give you a pop quiz. Making sure you can see, sorry. So answer me in the comments section. If you dip into your emergency fund, you can dip into your emergency fund if A, your favorite designer has a flash sale. B, round trip flights to Antigua are cheaper now than they were last month and you deserve a vacay. C, you say a prayer every time you start your car because your brakes work when they want to. Or D, your workplace is toxic and you just put in your 2-week notice. When do you dip into your emergency fund? A, B, C, D. Let me know in the comment section. A, B, C, D. Anyone say A? If you said A, you are not correct. Right. So if you said C or D, you are correct. Right? You say a prayer every time your car starts because these brakes are petty, right? You want your brakes to work all the time because it's a matter of life and death, literally. And your workplace environment that is toxic is a matter of life and death. And that is worth dipping into your emergency fund for. I try to trick you, but you guys got it, right? Yes. Yes. So, what I want us to start thinking about, we've talked already about all the things when it comes to your values-based budgeting, to helping you understand what it means to think about budgeting. But you have to find the money. And part of having wealth is having a financial foundation with an emergency fund. Now, for some of us, the idea of an emergency fund makes us feel uncomfortable. It triggers us, it makes us feel small, it makes us feel anxious. So I've used various names for emergency funds. And tell me which one works for you. Tell me how many of these work for you. Saving for a sunny day. That means an opportunity that you cannot miss out on. Things are going to be even better, and you want to have the money to be able to fund it. A healing fund. For those of us that are in situations, domestic violence, situations where we are not being heard, we are not being seen, we may need time to heal and be able to separate in order to focus on ourselves. An opportunity fund, similar to a Save for a Sunny Day fund, but this means any opportunity, whether it means you found love and you want to follow that person to France, which I've had people actually do that, where you need some money to do so before you can situate yourself. Your freedom fund, you just decide you want to pivot careers or you want to just do different in life, and you need the money to do so in order to live comfortably and figure out your next move. And for others, there's the FU fund that you might have heard about. This is for people who are just tired of their situation, whether it be health wise, whether it be work wise, whether it be health wise, work wise, or relationship wise, and they need to pick up and go, and they need the financial independence to do so. So, which of these, in addition to an emergency fund, resonate with you? A, B, C, D, or E, or all? But just let me know, because you don't have to call an emergency fund an emergency fund. You can just call it one of these if that works better for you, because it means it's going to help you save consistently and it's going to help you save happily. Right? Mahogany said all. All. Janine said all. Perfect. Because sometimes you'll need your emergency fund for all of these things, right? Perfect. So when it comes to an emergency fund, it's important for you to actually know the difference. Some of us use emergency funds and we create them based on your living expenses or your monthly take-home pay, but you get to decide. When it comes to your living expenses should actually be less than your take-home pay. So let's just say you get $1,500 every 2 weeks for your take-home pay. Hopefully, which is $3,000 a month. Hopefully that means that your living expenses, when you actually do that broken down budget by category, let's say it hopefully lands at $2,000. So when it comes to building an emergency fund, you can decide to base your emergency fund off of your living expenses or your take-home pay. Take-home pay, that number is going to be a little bit higher. But nonetheless, if you decide to focus on having just enough money for your living expenses, you're still doing great. So let me know which resonates the most for you if you've never had an emergency fund or you're looking to beef up your emergency fund. Because what we're going to do next, we're going to actually calculate how much is in your emergency fund or how much do you need. So your emergency fund is created by your monthly expenses. And let's just say your net income is $2,000 by the desired months of emergency funds, which I have here as an example as 6 months. And the total would be $12,000 as your emergency fund. Now, for some of you, this number is, these numbers normally going to be 5-digit numbers with a comma. So that means it's going to take a while for a lot of us to get that. But I want you to actually think about what number works best for you. And here's a rule of thumb. I call it the 3-6-9-12 rule. So if you want to focus on having an emergency fund of 3 months, usually that means you're single, simple living, or living at home or with reduced rent, no children, no mortgage. So that means you don't need as much money to be able to live and be able to move and function, and you have minimal debt. and middle expenses. 6 months is maybe living in an expensive city like New York, single, no children, minimal debt. When it gets a little bit spicier is when the 9 and 12 month part of the rule come in. Oftentimes, people that push or it's recommended for those with 9 to 12 months of emergency fund money saved and tucked away is because they have high earning jobs that may be difficult to replace, and it may take time if they're looking for a new job to get one. They have dependents. They may have minimal debt or a lot of debt, but they're looking to pivot careers either by choice or because their industry is in decline. And they're also looking, maybe you want to start completely your own business and it's going to take time. So I want you to think about whether between living expenses and take home pay and the 3-6-9-12 rule, which of these make the most sense for you? Do you want 3 months of living expenses or 3 months of take home pay? Do you want 6 months of living expenses or 6 months of take home pay? And if you have your worksheet, you can calculate it here, right? What's your monthly net income? What's your total monthly expenses? And you can decide how you want to um, identify that amount for you. Now, for me, I'm a mother. I have also fluctuating income as a business owner. So I like to have between 9 and 12 months of income saved in the event that something happens and I have to be able to take care of my daughter, and maybe getting up to find new clients may be hard like we had in the pandemic, right? So thinking about your situation, it's your situation for now. Which of these emergency fund goals makes the most sense for you? I'm gonna give you like 1 minute to process this and actually do the calculations. You can let us know in the chat what your numbers are if you want to. Credina says, I've always aimed for 6 months. Okay, cool. Credina, why? What's your why? 3 to 6 months? Perfect, Tanisha. Good for you. Well, I'll keep going. 6 to 12 months. Okay, Stephanie. 9 to 12. Okay. Now, question is, where do you keep your emergency fund money? Well, I always like to say I can't tell you where to keep it, but here's some criteria. You want to go someplace where you won't touch the money in what I call the dipping fund. Every time something comes up, you want to dip into your emergency fund. That's not an emergency fund. So online banks that make it difficult for you to reach to it, for like there's a number of banks, but I won't mention them. The only credit I'm only going to talk about on Summit Credit Union because they're sponsors of this. If they're able to speak with them to find out if they're able to support you around opening up an account so you don't touch your emergency fund. And also you want to think about an institution where it's going to outpace inflation. So normally US inflation is less than 2%. But what is going on now, inflation has risen to 7.5%, the highest it's been since 1982. Now, this is not going to be here forever. However, it's important to think about, you don't get a lot of savings in your bank accounts, but if you're going to look for one that has the best savings rate so that you can get at least, you won't be able to outpace inflation at this rate, but the normal inflation rate of less than 2%, your bank will be able to offer an interest rate that at least keeps the money at its same purchasing power. Right? So making sure that you won't be able to touch it. If you know that you suffer from anytime there's money around you, you want to spend it. And two, interest rate that makes it make sense to leave your money in there, because this is 5 figures worth of savings. Now, I'm going to tell you something. It's not controversial, but it's out there as a theory. There's a theory out there that says that you should only have about a couple $1,000s in your savings account and then put the rest of that money into investing. Well, let me tell you a personal story. I actually used that advice and it backfired, because people think the market always goes up. They always think it once it goes up, but it doesn't. I lost some of that money. Now, if you don't need the money in your emergency fund for the next 3 to 5 years, go ahead, put it in investing. But if you need money, that money, and you need to be close to you for what it is that you need to do with your life, keeping it in a safe place that may not accrue much interest, but at least keeps it at its purchasing power is the best place. So the two places I would recommend is, or three places, is a savings account, whether it be an institutional bank or something like a credit union, and also a money market. All right. But the idea of putting money in, you have to be able to deal with the risk of putting money into whether it even be a stock or a bond because of the volatility. Stocks, of course, being more volatile than bonds. But if you decide to do the bonds route, fine. But in terms of the idea of, it's not as simple to just put your money into investing and think that it's going to be okay, because stocks go up and stocks go down. The stock market goes up and it goes down, and that's part of the process. But if you need that money, making sure that you have access to it in a safe place is always a recommendation from me. All right. So let me know in the comment section, do you have an institution that meets criteria 1 and 2? That will help you save you from yourself in terms of dipping if you do. And if you've never thought about the interest rate at your current institution, it's time for you to think about what it is. Wonderful. So now that you have that, let's talk about, if you do not have the money for your emergency fund, let's talk about 10 ways to make $1,000 to add to your emergency fund. Now, this is the fun part. I came up with 4 ways that we normally accumulate money, which is saving. You save more, you earn more, you save and earn more, or you save and earn more aggressively. Now, here are 10 ways, and these are just off the top of my head, that you can be able to find that $1,000. You could become a virtual assistant or a real life assistant, rent a space in your home, complete surveys, leverage your talents, baking. I think it was Stephanie that said she does hair and nails really well. If you need another $1,000 really quick, leverage some of those talents, Stephanie. Sell unwanted items on free platforms like Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace, tutor online, babysit for working and tired mothers, publish an ebook or a course, lose weight. There are apps that pay you to lose weight. That's not a typo. And also become a notary. So these are just a number of things that you can do that don't require you to save a lot, but it helps you earn more. Do any of these resonate with you? And if not, what's something that you can do that feels good for you to be able to save $1,000? Oh, Stephanie says, I have a slush fund and emergency fund. I love it. I love it. And what do you consider to be the difference between the two, Stephanie? So everyone who doesn't know can learn from you. Jasmine says she's a notary, but she hasn't been active. She's gonna make sure she does it this year. Wonderful. Okay, great, great. And making sure, remember that it's just not the idea of making the money, it's using the money in an intentional way. Is this for the emergency fund? Is this for your values-based budgeting, right? Wonderful. So when we talk about all these things and we want to get you to that larger place of wealth, debt is a big part of that process. When you eliminate debt, you actually grow wealth. When you think about the net worth analysis, it's your assets minus your liabilities. And your liabilities include the debt that you have. So we're going to talk now about, we talked about how we want to get an emergency fund, but sometimes if those numbers fall short, the best thing we can do is eliminate our debt so we can use whatever money is left over that we no longer have to pay towards those credit card companies or those car notes toward our debt. So the first strategy is the debt domino or debt snowball strategy. And this is when you line up your smallest balances to your largest amounts and then pay them off in succession. So say, for example, you have three balances, $100, $200, and $300, right? You line them up from 100, 200, and 300. You pay the minimum balances across all 3 balances, and any extra money that comes from finding that extra money from your talents or your gifts or reducing areas in that budget wherever that extra money comes from, you continue to put it on top of that $100 debt until it's gone. And then you do the same process now that you have a $200 debt and a $300 debt. You continue to pay the minimum balances, and any extra money you throw at that balance with the lowest balance until it is gone. And for me, that was an emotional decision for me. It made me feel confident as someone that was in debt and didn't feel confident about my money abilities. When I saw that my number of balances went down, I felt like I could be in charge of my money. So this is for those of us that need a quick win, a quick boost to our financial journey with debt, and can do so by eliminating a debt that's small to help you reduce the total number of debt. The second strategy is debt avalanche. Now, these are for the people that want to save the most money. And you do this by lining up your debts by largest interest rate first. So let's just say in that same example of $100, $200, and $300, let's say that the $200 debt had the highest interest rate, would say 10%. And the $100 debt had an interest rate of 8%, and the $300 debt had an interest of 2%. So the goal is to pay off the debt with the highest interest rate first, because the more interest, the more you're paying to borrow that money. So the quicker you eliminate the debt with the highest interest rate, the quicker you get to saving that money. So that same process of doing the minimum payments across all three, but any extra money goes to that debt of $200 now because it has an interest rate of 10% before you move on to the next one and the next one. All right. The third strategy here is the debt snowflake strategy. And this is when you make small, frequent payments throughout a billing cycle. Now, some of us think like $10 isn't going to mean anything. $20 isn't going to mean anything. $10 and $20 that don't have a place to go don't mean anything because you spend it easily. But $10 and $20 several times across the month allow you to stop the interest from accruing on the bill, and it reduces the amount of interest that accrues on that debt. And it also goes deeper into reducing the principal. So you are actually making a change. So you can do the debt snowball or the debt avalanche in addition to the debt snowflake perspective or strategy at the same time. And I used to do this all the time, especially when I was getting really aggressive about getting out of student loan and credit card debt, which I had $65,000 worth of both. So I would make my payment, listen to the call and find out what the balance was, and say, okay, I think I can find $20 or $50 and send it to them. And it will continue to do that throughout the month just because I wanted to build that momentum. All right. Now, of these three so far, debt snowball, debt avalanche, and debt snowflake, debt domino, and debt avalanche, which of these resonate with you? And we have one more. Now I'm going to put an asterisk next to this one, which is the balance transfer. Now, I bring this up to you because this is an advanced approach to eliminating debt. I only recommend this to people who actually have strong discipline and can actually be able to pay off the transfer, the balance transfer in the time that it is allowed. So you ever hear of those credit cards that offer you a 0% introductory rate for a certain period of time? Well, let me tell you something. They work for those of you that are smart and are on time about getting your debts paid on time and in full. Because what they do is they offer you an introductory rate to get you to move from one credit card to the other. And you think, woo, I don't have to pay any of that interest. That debt avalanche approach, I don't need it because there is 0 interest rate. And sometimes, like the tortoise and the hare, we become the hare and we think that we got time. And then time creeps up and our 0% window of opportunity has gone away, and that interest rate skyrockets to possibly even more than the previous credit card that you had. And now you're paying interest on this credit card when you could have eliminated it completely with this 0% interest opportunity. Now, I only offer this to you because it's an actual strategy for those of us that are smart enough to use it at that time. Do not use this strategy if you know that you are susceptible to when you transfer a credit card to put more debt on it. That's not the goal. The goal is to eliminate the debt. All right. So E. Winston said that she's a balance transfer kind of person. Well, I'm happy for you. But for those of us that remember, this is a temporary 0%. It won't be the 0% forever. And a lot of credit card studies show the reason they do this is not because they care about you. It's because they know human nature, that they will wait to the last minute, right? They'll wait to the last minute and they won't eliminate the debt. And then they'll be able to benefit from those people that move to their credit card and have it at a different interest rate or even a higher interest rate. So they're not doing it because they love you. They're doing it because it works for them. And there's so many studies that show that very few people actually game this strategy. But it is a strategy that can work if you have a lot of discipline. All right. So of these strategies, which of these work for you? 1, 2, 3, or 4? What I want you to do, we have here your debt pay down form, where if you have access to your debts or you know them and your interest rates, use this form to begin to jot them down and create a strategy, right? And what I've done in my experience is that once I felt, oh, Jasmine says 1 and 3, wonderful. So that was debt, the debt domino / debt snowball and the debt snowflake. Tanisha likes the debt domino. I love it too. What I did eventually was that once I started to feel confident about reducing the number of balances that I had, I started to move to the debt avalanche approach using the debt snowflake as well, because I knew now that I was a debt eliminator. I was a debt slayer. But before I was like, I don't know. So let me just do this one debt, see if I can do it and get my momentum, get my confidence. And I switched over to debt avalanche because now I knew I was saving money. All right. So I'm glad of that. So for those of you that want to create this debt elimination plan and use this worksheet to do so, I just want to give you a few rules of thumb. Know your total debt, right? Know your total debt and give yourself zero judgment and lots of grace for whatever number it may be, because it's been a very tough 2 years for all of us. Choose your preferred strategy of those 4 and create bite-sized benchmarks. So after 10%, after 20%, after 30% of your debt will be eliminated. Break it down. So if you have a big debt like $10,000, $1,000 may be your goal. And that might be too much. You may want to say 500. Every $500 is going to be my goal to keep my momentum going. And think about what the extra money is going to come from. The reason I've been doing this idea around values-based budgeting, about your emergency fund, about ways to find money, is because you're going to need to find money to eliminate this debt, right? Will that mean saving more, earning more, or doing both aggressively? And don't forget to celebrate your success in the smallest of ways, whether it be a latte or it be a mani-pedi, something that won't take you out of your way from your financial goals, but won't make you feel like a prisoner in this personal finance journey. All right. So, Sexy Credit Club. I want us to, our final conversation will be around this joining the Sexy Credit Club. A lot of us think that credit is important, and you would be right to think that credit is important. Credit is an important part of building wealth in a secondary way. When you have excellent credit, you are attractive and you can dictate the interest rates. You get the lower interest rates for mortgages, you get the lowest interest rates for car loans, for business loans, all those things. And so it's important, well, that's not true. When it comes to credit, your ability to open up a credit card or a business credit card, they often use how you're handling your personal finances as a form of credit worthiness for you to open up a business credit card. And that's been, in my case, how I've been able to open up and have approvals for my business credit because of my personal credit. And oftentimes, if you are in a C-suite position, especially in a financial institution, they will rescind an offer because employees often check your credit to see what they consider to be trustworthiness. Your ability to pay your bills on time is a sign of discipline, of character. Sometimes not always true, but it is something that may be taken into account. And I've interviewed a few women who have lost offers because they have defaulted on a loan, whether it be their credit card or their student loan debt. So your credit is important. So I just talked about why your credit matters. And I want to talk to you about the credit ranges. So a score of 720 or higher is considered excellent credit. A score between 690 and 719 is considered good credit. And scores between 630 and 689 are fair credit. And scores of 629 and below are considered poor credit. Now, you may be somewhere in between, you're going to be along this range. And what I want you to think about right now is, how can I get to the next tier? If my credit is poor, how can I get it to fair? If my credit is fair, how can I get it to good? If my credit is good, how can I get it to excellent, right? Sometimes if we say, if I'm at poor credit and I want to go zooming to excellent credit in the next few months, may not be as realistic, and it may set you up for disappointment. But if you say maybe good to fair, you feel good, fair to good, you feel wonderful, and then good to excellent. It's a journey. And the most important thing is that if you're moving forward, you're going to get to that goal. Now, in terms of how your credit is calculated, there are a few categories. And I'm going to share something with you as well about how I have been able to maintain excellent credit and not think much about how I do it, because I use what I call the 65% rule. Now, your payment history is the first thing any lender wants to know, is whether you've paid your bills on time. Number one, right? And so this helps you. This is one of the most important factors when figuring out what your FICO score is. And most of us just go by our FICO score. And the three credit bureaus are Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. They just kind of care about, are you paying on time, right? On time. The next part of your credit calculation is, are you paying in full? So the idea of credit utilization, you want to keep your credit utilization to less than 30%. So if you have, let's just say, a $10,000 credit card limit, you want to try and stay below using, you want to have less than 30% of your credit card in use, right? So that shows that you are not strapped for cash. It shows that you're not risky because you're trying to get it to the max. And what a lot of us do is that we think about doing other things like your length of credit history, opening up credit cards, but that is not as much of a bang for your buck when it comes to improving your credit score. But your length of credit history makes up for 15% of your credit score. It's not required to have a good score, but it is positive. How long you've had your credit cards, how long they've been established, those are all important things. How long has it been since you use your certain accounts? Those are all important things in helping you determine this 15% of your credit score. But the other two, your credit, how often if you pay on time and if you pay on full, are the two most important factors. Your credit mix. So your FICO score is a mix of retail accounts, installment loans, finance companies, and mortgage loans. You do not have to go out and get an installment loan just to prove that you have good credit. So you don't have to do the most, is what I'm saying. You don't, to improve your credit. It's only 10% of your credit score. So focus on the things that get you most for your credit. New credit, again, going out to open up several accounts shows even riskier behavior. You don't need to do that. You don't need to do that, especially if you have a long credit history. So this is what I call my 65% rule. And ma'am, who's looking quite sexy in her shirt, is, listen, pay your bills in full and on time every month. That's it. You can rest assured that your credit score will go up, will jump, or they say jump like Jordan or Steph Curry, whoever, you know what I mean? It will jump if you just spend most of your time, but not a lot of your energy, because it doesn't take that much for you to pay in full and pay on time. Let's talk about what that looks like. You can automate your credit payments so you pay in full and on time. You don't have to take up too much emotional and mental real estate for you to automate your credit card payments, right? So if you're looking for that extra 100 points boost, this will help you get there. But let me say this, those of you that are pushing from fair credit, from poor credit to fair credit, your score is probably going to get quicker higher because you're starting from the bottom, but those of us that have like good to great credit, it's going to take a little bit longer because you already have good credit, right? So these strategies will work. But for those of us that have any place will be a better place than where you are with your credit, you're going to see an improvement. So this is especially for those of you that really want to see some improvements in your credit. So pay in full and pay on time and automate it so you get it out the way. Check your credit report. 1 in 5 consumers find errors on their credit report in one of their 3 credit reports. That's 20%, you guys. So there is an error more than likely that's there. And especially if it's related to a late payment and you can dispute it, you'll be able to see your credit score jump. So like I said, mistakes that are outdated information, you keeping or could keep your score down. So make sure that you contact that bureau, whether it be TransUnion, Equifax, or Experian, and make sure that correction is made, and that can make your score go up. Pay more than the bare minimum when it comes to your payments. Now, ideally, you want to pay in full, but if you're able to pay more than the minimum, it actually can boost your credit score because you want to reduce and keep your credit utilization less than 30%, and being able to pay at least more than the minimum will do so for you. Now, there's also this other strategy I did not put on here because the simplicity of improving your credit score is actually an easy one. Pay in full, pay on time, or pay more than a minimum. But a lot of us want to think that the expert is out there, or we want to use someone else's credit. If you can become an authorized user on a family members whose credit is good, maybe you can do that, because it gets you access to their utilization rate, and you can see you being a part of their good credit history. But I highly recommend that this is something that you could definitely do on your own, and also bring you joy and pride for your ability to do this for yourself. Okay, so when it comes to moving forward, I want to ask you, what of your credit score, where in your credit score do you see being able to improve? Do you think you should be paying more in full? Do you think you should pay more on time? Do you need to go to your credit bureau? Do you even know what your credit score is? Let me know what your next step is with respect to getting sexy credit, so we can support you along the way. Okay, let me know in the chat. Yeah, Jasmine says, focus on that 30%. Sounds good. Tanisha said, I connected to Experian, which connects to my bank. So when I pay, it shows up. Wonderful. Wonderful. Right. And what Tanisha's saying is a good strategy too, is if you set up a payment, well, I'm not saying she's saying exactly this, but if you put like a small subscription, whether it be a streaming subscription or a gym subscription, on your credit card, and then you have your bank automatically pay for it, that's shown as being paid in full and paid on time on a credit card that you normally don't use, right? Just put that one thing on it, and it shows that, hey, she's paying in full and paying on time every month. Boom, your credit score goes up, right? So I'm hearing some thoughtfulness about our credit and what they're going to do, the debt elimination, their student loans. Wonderful. So we have come to the end of, I'm taking you through a journey, you guys. We have gone through it all. We recapped our relationship with money and seeing if our story still serves us. And I want you not to have too much FOMO, so definitely go back to that first one to watch it. We talked about budgeting so you don't feel agita. A lot of times people feel that budgeting is not their best friend, but if you incorporate and infuse your values, it is. I'll say it again. If you incorporate and infuse your values, it is, because it's never a time of, Carrie, you can't have this. Jasmine, you can't have this. It's just like, sis, yes, you can. Here's when. And you'll see when you're able to do it. And it's going to be great because it's something that you really want. Listen, I've been wanting these Nikes, but also I knew I had to invest my money first. So I knew that my values of investing or, living my best sneaker life were important to me. And I made sure that I incorporated them both. So if like I said, if my bags were too fancy at the time and too expensive, I made sure the ones that meant the most to me came first, right? So we talked about that. We talked about building an emergency fund, because you can't have a budget without having an emergency fund to sustain you and to be able to fuel you in the event something happens. We talked about debt being part of, a way that we build wealth, because when it comes to net worth, we reduce our liabilities. When we reduce our liabilities, that means we're reducing our debt and increasing our net worth. And then finally, we came around and we talked about sexy credit. How sexy credit is a lot easier to achieve than you think. You just got to do the 65% rule. Let me know in the comment section if you remember what the 65% rule is, because it's the easiest thing in the whole wide world. And as a personal finance person, I'm not supposed to say it's easy, but it is. And that I really don't pay attention to my credit. I really don't. I mean, I check it, of course, but I do the 65% rule. I pay in full and pay on time. That's it. I'm not looking out there, whose credit card can I get so I can get some new credit. I'm not doing that. I pay in full, pay on time, credit score goes up. That's it. You can go get your latte and enjoy your life, instead of sitting there scheming on webinars about how you'll get better credit. Pay in full, pay on time. All right, I hope this was extremely helpful. I want to leave us open for Q&A, but I also want to say, for those of you that are ready for the next level, hope to see you March 19th. We're going to be talking about investing, retirement, and building some wealth, because we talked about the foundational stuff. There's also foundational stuff, and wealth builders look like you and they look like me, for real. So I want to leave us open for Q&A. Let me know what your thoughts are, any questions about what we discussed today, or even in session 1.
Thanks so much, Kara. This is just amazing. I always have a great time when I come and listen to these, even if I'm in the background. I've been reinvigorated. It also helps open up conversations around money with my husband, which you have to have consistently and regularly, and shenanigans. I tend to be a little bit better with money. So these are always interesting conversations. But we just finished refinancing our house so that we could pay down debt from the pandemic when he was out of work for 16 months. And so that was an important part of us from having another kind of zero start, that we took the equity from our home, which we had invested in, and we're able to pay down that debt without having to max out anything else. And so having a clean, fresh start has been a great way to kind of reinvigorate us around our savings and where we want to put our money.
Right. And I bet it's also made conversations about money less stressful, because you guys have a stress. I know there's more to go.
Yeah.
This area, you guys at least on the same page, and maybe setting some mini goals that you guys can agree to, that can share goals with your baby girl in mind as well. So it creates the conversation around, what do we want to do with our lives, and how's money going to support that, instead of money being the focus.
Yeah, a lot easier.
People, yeah. That's wonderful.
A lot easier. So I have unlocked everyone. So you can raise your hand, or you can unmute yourself if you have questions. If you don't feel comfortable coming on camera, you can just drop your stuff in the chat. We'd love to see your face and hear your questions, though.
And if you don't have a question, you can just say, what was your biggest takeaway from today? Like, if you in the next 10 minutes just decide to do something with your finances, what would it be? Would it be just like filling out the workbook? Would it be having a conversation? Would it be making a list of to-dos? There's nothing too small for you to do when it comes to your finances. And I also want to make sure that we have time to for Amy to come back on if she needs to. Yeah, I remember, Amy, you were talking about to create that budget for your daughter's graduation party. So I remember last time that was the goal. Now it's the budget. Wonderful, because that's a value of yours, to celebrate her big milestone in education and in just like coming of age.
Yeah, we got the shoes taken care of this past weekend for the graduation dress, which she was said and committed to actually using these same shoes to all of the graduation parties as well.
Smart. She's cost per wear. Yes.
Yes. And we had a coupon at DSW.
Yes.
So we until the coupon started to go shopping.
Smart.
Yeah.
So anyone else want to share just their biggest takeaways? How are you feeling about your emergency fund goal? Have you finally calculated it? What do those numbers? Go ahead, Miss Millie.
I might be one of the older ones, and I just found this presentation very validating. These are many of the steps that we learned early in our marriage, and we were able to put them in practice. And I have to say that because of this information learned early and executed, we're at a point now in retirement that would not have been obtainable had we not got on that track probably 25, 30 years ago. So for the younger people, I would say take this to heart, put these things into place, and there's no such thing as too much savings. And so definitely go with it, because it can make the difference between getting up and being very relaxed when you're older, as opposed to getting up and being very worried about how you're going to take on some of these things like emergencies, because they will happen. They simply will happen. And the challenge and the opportunity is to be prepared when they come.
Thank you, Miss Millie, for your wisdom. And you heard it from, one of our elders in our community, that the stuff I'm talking about, if she could tell us 20, 30 years ago what she would tell her younger self, we are the younger selves, and I'm happen to be, the one in on the platform, but it's the same stuff. It's lived experience. And it's amazing that we're able to have this intergenerational conversation and pull from our resources, because I'm building from my mom's strengths and her weaknesses. We can build from our collective strengths and our weaknesses right now. So thank you so much, Miss Millie. And we have, you can just unmute yourself. Go ahead.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
All I wanted to share was everything that you're telling us is fantastic. And a lot of these things I had actually been telling my son, just simply because with me still being in school and dealing with debt from being in school, I had actually taught my son. So starting at 18, he got his first credit card, and I taught him the 65% rule. I was like, pay it off. Do not spend more in a month than you can afford to pay off. And I was amazed, because immediately he got like a car loan with he had 0% interest on his car loan at 21. And I'm just like, oh my God, I was like, I've never been in that position. So now I'm trying to be more like him. And he's now 25, but I'm like, I'm trying to be more like him, because I taught him what was necessary, but I had to sacrifice my finances to make sure he got where he needed to go. So I'm here just relearning to actually put in place what I need to do. So I feel very empowered, and I'm glad that we're partnering with Summit.
Yes.
And Ms. Amy, I too shall be in touch and see you soon. So
that's right.
I thank you all for sharing, because some of the stuff is like we know, but just because of circumstances we were not able to do. And Ms. Millie, I strive to be like you when I grow up as well. So I thank you all for sharing and for all the information that you're giving us. And definitely younger people, hold fast. If you do it now, you'll be able to retire early and be comfortable. So thank you all so much.
Thank you, Ms. Katrina.
That's awesome. I have to share with you too that my daughter has a part-time job. She's 18 and she's going to go to college in the fall. And she wanted to have an appointment with our Summit financial advisors to start talking about how she can invest at age 18 instead of waiting until she has a full-time job, where they would offer her a retirement plan through her company that she might work for. So that's 5 extra years ish that she could be putting, $5, $10 into a retirement account. That would be an investment to help her grow. And so she had an initial appointment. She's going to give a thought into how much money she might actually invest. Typically it's $250 to start investing, but it didn't cost anything for her to talk to a Summit financial advisor. They don't charge you for an appointment. So if you're looking to invest, find somebody who doesn't charge you to talk to them. So I'm pretty proud of her.
No, it's something to be proud of. And even, and just how sometimes we say, oh, $5, $10 here doesn't make a difference, but $5, $10 put in the same place in a tax deferred engine that grows tax free until you're 59 and a half does. So let's change that narrative. You know what I mean? Let's change that narrative. And if she does it she'll never have to worry about money. And I'm doing that for my daughter now, who she's going to be well set before I was at my age. I'm still working because of, we learn from each generation. So Amy's daughter is getting it at 18. Katrina's son got it at early at 18 as well. My daughter's getting it at 2 and 3. Like, we are going to be able to break these we'll build the generational wealth through these small habits. And it doesn't take much, but it does take someone having a support system to do so, because it's the information, but it's also the execution, I think, as Miss Katrina, Miss Millie said.
I think those are all wonderful, wonderful points, and a perfect segue to talk about next month, which Kara has already mentioned, will be about our futures, right? And how we want to look at retirement and what that means, and how much we should be saving and putting away.
Yeah.
But it also ties very closely into how we leave our generations behind us with what we want to give to them, and help them be supported through the work that needs to get done. I think as we talk about kind of breaking generational curses for people of brown persuasion, whatever that hue may be, is that this is an important conversation to get out of debt and to maintain that and to have healthy and well futures around money. So we will all see you all hopefully next month. Invite your friends. We're opening registration back up. We're super excited to see Kara again next month and to have her wisdom in this space, and to just talk about money in a real and realistic way that's important to us, and to start those small habits to make us get to those big goals. Anything else that you'd like to say, Kara, before we close?
No, I just make sure, like Erin said, bring your friends, bring a group of friends, because we talk about brunch. Let's do brunch and budget. You know what I mean? Brunch and investing. Let's pull it all together. So you guys have something else to talk about over brunch. It's like, how much money you saving, girl? Let's do it. So
Sounds
I'm
wonderful.
excited to hear that.
Thank you so much again to Amy from Summit and for their wonderful support of this program. I'm looking at my dog, don't mind me. I'm trying to decide if he's going to bark. And our wonderful CFO over here, Janine, doing the wonderful work of introducing everyone today. We're so glad that you could join the Foundation for Black Women's Wellness today to talk about financial wellness. Anything else, Janine?
No, thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Bye. Have a wonderful day.
Bye-bye.